Hi art friends, great to see you today. My name is Millie and I'm an illustrator from the south of England in the New Forest. Today I'm going to do a speed paint of the Gruffalo. Have you ever heard of the Gruffalo? Well, for those of you who don't know, if there's anyone there who doesn't know, the Gruffalo is a fantastic story written by Julia Donaldson and illustrated by Axel Scheffler. It's very, very well drawn, it's beautifully articulated, and today I'm going to show you how I would approach it on Photoshop, really sped up.
So I really recommend doing a couple of copies of your favourite characters from the past, even if it was a character that you loved when you were younger, maybe the Gruffalo, because it really helps you understand the way that the artist was working. And you can do this for all sorts of things. It's good not to completely rely on doing copies, but just to do a couple of copies alongside the work that you're making otherwise is a really good plan. So the first thing I'm doing is I've got my brown pen and I'm just roughly penning in the big shapes, the broader shapes. I'm not getting really stuck into all the details. I'm just thinking about where the main shapes sit. And I've got a copy of the Gruffalo's child sitting right behind my Wacom Cintiq, which is what I'm working on. And I'm looking at that Gruffalo's child book pretty much half the time, 60% of the time. If you're just looking at your own work, you probably won't make such an accurate copy. So you need to look really hard at what you're drawing, and you will probably find that you don't make it right kind of first time round. I can already see that that arm is a bit dodgy, and I can see that the horns probably need a bit of help. But we can move those a little bit later as we go along. So the next thing that I'm doing, once I've got a rough map of my Gruffalo, is I'm blocking it in. So blocking in is something that you can do in classical art as well as illustration. And it basically means I'm just finding the base colour, that main underlying colour, and I'm just filling it in essentially. So I've actually created a separate layer for my blocking in. So my rough sketch is on one layer, and then my blocking in layer is separate to that. And it's good to try to be disciplined with that. So if you feel like you need to go back over and add some colour, some big chunks of colour, try to go back to your blocking in layer. And your layers on Photoshop are these ones at the bottom right hand corner. So my kind of 4 staple layers are my background. Very important not to work directly onto your background. So your background just stays on its own without anything on apart from your background colour. And then I've got a sketching layer. And above that I've got a blocking in layer, and then with this particular piece I've got a black outline layer as well, because all of Axel Scheffler's work, I think I've pronounced that right, Axel Scheffler, all of his illustrations have this beautiful black outline. It's quite a kind of scruffy black outline. There's nothing totally perfect about that black outline, and so I've got that black outline layer right at the top. So it's going to be, there's nothing that can cover that layer. So the next thing that we're going to do is dive in with the black pen. So I've got quite a hard, opaque black pen here. and I'm working directly on my top layer, which I've labelled black outline. I think I should have done. I recommend you do the same. Having good layer discipline is a very worthwhile trait, I like to think. Otherwise you get very lost and you can be working on the wrong thing, and then it's harder to edit later on. So it really is worthwhile being quite disciplined with this. So there are some points where I make a slightly lighter black, but mostly I'm going in with quite a hard black, and I'm just copying the Gruffalo that I can see in front of me. Mostly I'm using about 3 pixels, 2 or 3 pixels. One gets too tiny and you can't always see it. And then sometimes just to make that pen mark a little bit more interesting and textured, I'm just changing the pen. So it's easier to use when it's just that really solid black one. But actually it doesn't look very interesting. It looks quite digital. So if you want to make it look like it wasn't actually digital, then I would recommend using one of the other brushes. And you can download, I recommend going onto the Adobe website and downloading some brushes from there. But that's for a whole separate day, not right now. That's a whole big thing in itself. So yeah, just go in over your work, over your blocked line, add in that black outline, and don't worry about anything else. It is great when you start to add in the eyes, because they just suddenly go from being blobs of orange to sentient beings, the portals to the Gruffalo. So I love that bit when you add in the eyes. And again, it doesn't matter too much if it's a bit wrong, because you can just change it later. Just get in where you think it roughly is. Remember, this is just practice, okay? I'm pretty pleased with the way that his head's, it is a he, isn't it? It's one of those things, I'm like, is the Gruffalo a boy or a girl? I think the Gruffalo's a boy, but I could be wrong with that. sexless general being. Yeah, I'm pleased with the way that his or her face has turned out, because I just think it's captured the Gruffalo's essence. Do you know what I mean? It's the kind of clumsy, kind, but slightly unpredictable face of the Gruffalo. I guess the Gruffalo has a child. It could be a single dad. Who knows what the Gruffalo is? So I'm going over with a really nice light yellow. So it's mixing up the black and the yellow, and it makes it Gruffalo-y. You look at the original, that's roughly what the Gruffalo has. And then I realised the arm was completely wrong, so I'm going way over with back into my block colours, back into my block layer, and I'm just changing all the colours there. And the tool that I often return to is the blend tool. So I sometimes use the blur, but the blur is not quite as strong as the blend, but they're all under the same tab. And it really, you can change the size of it. Just go in and blend the colours together before you go in over. So it's getting very Gruffalo-y now. I think it's where adding the black in is the kind of fun bit for me. So one thing that I forgot to put in earlier, well, I forgot to put in quite a few things. One of them was the grey knees of the Gruffalo, and I've now added those in. And the other thing is Stickman, the nod to one of the other books. So I'm now adding in Stickman in a very haphazard way. It kind of looks Stickman-y, so everything is fine. And now that I've widened the eye of the Gruffalo's child, it looks Gruffalo's childy as well. It's amazing how a slightly skinnier eye can lose the whole sense of that character. So I'm feeling like that relationship between the child and the mummy or daddy is working, and it's all kind of coming together. So we're just doing the finishing touches really now, adding those last bits and pieces to the Gruffalo's child, and then it's going to be done. One of the last things I'm going to do is go round the edge and just make sure there's no blocked in colour spilling out into the background. So I'm just using the eraser for this, sometimes jumping into the magic wand tool to quickly select an area and then delete it basically. And it's just tidying up that edge and making it look a bit cleaner and a little bit crisper.
thanks for watching my speed paint of the Gruffalo. If there are more videos that you'd like to see, then just comment them in the boxes below, or I'm on Instagram as Millie Martin or Draw with Millie, and I would love to hear from you. Meanwhile, have a great week, stay creative, stay drawing, and see you soon.